Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, September 23rd. Today we are going to be looking at evidence, but before we do that, make sure that you go and check in on campus. Today we're going to go through the evidence slideshow first. Make sure that you're taking notes on your essay format note sheet or in your notebook or wherever you've been keeping notes for essay format. And then you guys are going to find and record two pieces of evidence to back up your topic sentence and thesis on your outline sheet. We're also going to look at citing your evidence and how to do that. You will also need to make sure that you cite your evidence on your sheet. So let's get started. First thing, get out your notes so that you can copy these notes onto your note sheet that you have. So today we're going to be looking at strong and thorough evidence. So your evidence are kind of like your guest speakers. So we need to make sure that whoever you are getting to come to your essay is actually going to help you out and help you prove your point in a really purposeful way. So our first thing that we need to talk about is what does it mean? So our evidence, like I just said, is our guest speakers. So you've invited them to come to your paper and help support you. It needs to support your thesis. Remember, your thesis tells us the entire argument that you have for your entire paper. So your evidence needs to directly support that thesis. It should prove that the claim is reliable, that it's strong, and that it directly supports that claim. There are different types of evidence that we use in our papers. So there are facts, statistics, case studies, expert opinions, there's hypothetical reasoning, anecdotal evidence. Those are all different types of evidence that you could use. When you are doing a paper like you're doing, you are going to want to use these. If you're doing a paper that is a literary analysis or you're looking at a story that we read, you'll be using evidence from the story. You want to use a combination of these types of evidence because they evoke different responses from students or from readers. We're not going to get too deep into this, but try and make sure that you're not always using statistics. You're not always using facts. You're not always, mix it up a little bit. When you're picking your evidence, there's some things that you want to avoid. Obviously, you don't want to tell us information that is common or obvious, things that everybody knows. It's not going to be the best information to help you prove your point. We also don't want to include irrelevant information or information that doesn't actually prove your claim. If it doesn't directly tie to your thesis or to your claim or to your topic sentence, it shouldn't be in there. We also don't want to cite a random person's opinion. So if it's like blogger 198, we don't want to cite their opinion. When you're picking people's opinions, make sure that they are experts, make sure that they're reputable. The more well-known they are, the better. The more experience they have with the topic, the better. Like, if you're talking about the school, and what's the best way to do school during a pandemic, getting information from doctors or the CDC or getting stuff from Education Minnesota is probably going to be better than getting stuff from your brother and what his opinions are. The next thing is that citing long quotes just to take up some space, your teachers are on to you. We know that that's what some people do. However, if your evidence is longer than your own actual writing, it becomes a problem because then you're not actually arguing your point. You're letting your evidence take over for you. And then it's not actually your ideas and opinions that we're hearing, it's somebody else's. So make sure that your quotes don't outweigh the rest of your paragraph. The last part is citing evidence without a purpose. If you just put evidence in there because you needed evidence because it's part of the paper, it can feel really disjointed and it's unclear why it's there. So make sure that your evidence is purposeful, that it's there to help you prove your point. So an example here of a weak piece of evidence and a strong piece of evidence is about the American dream. So our thesis or our claim is that the American dream is an illusion due to severe economic inequality. So a weak piece of evidence would be, according to a study by insurance company MassMutual, 1 out of 3 Americans believe that the American dream could be disappearing. A stronger piece of evidence would be, according to inequality.org, the richest Americans in the top 10% of the income bracket earn a whopping 9 times more than the bottom 90%. So this piece of evidence clearly illustrates inequality, which directly ties to our claim. This is just people's opinion, so it loosely ties to our claim of the American dream, but it doesn't actually really prove the point that it's due to severe economic inequality like this one does. Another example, school start times. So school start times should be pushed back to accommodate for adolescents' sleeping needs and habits. So a weak piece of evidence would be, in a press release, the American Academy of Pediatrics reports the reason for teens' lack of sleep are complex and include homework, extracurricular activities, after-school jobs, and use of technology that keep them up late on weeknights. A strong piece of evidence would be, according to a press release from the American Academy for Pediatrics, the organization recommends middle and high schools delay the start of class to 8:30 a.m. or later. Doing so will align school schedules to biological sleep rhythms of adolescents whose sleep-wake cycles begin to shift up to 2 hours later at the start of puberty. So, our first piece of evidence that we have here, it does talk about student sleep needs. However, it talks about why students are staying up later. It doesn't actually relate to school start times and student sleep. This one is stronger because it directly relates to students or teenagers and their sleep cycles and school. So, it is a better piece of evidence than the first one. Another one is about social media use. So, excessive social media use led to poor mental health in adolescence. So, a weak piece of evidence is, according to Psychology Today, at a societal level, steps need to be taken by governments or organizations to help minimize and in some cases prohibit the use of mobile devices. A stronger piece of evidence would be, according to Psychology Today, a recent review of the latest research showed that social media use for a minority of individuals is associated with a number of psychological problems, including anxiety, depression, loneliness, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and addiction. This piece of evidence directly talks about the mental health issues that come along with social media use. This first piece of evidence is weaker. While it talks about social media, it isn't directly talking about poor mental health, and it's talking more about like what the government should do. So it doesn't directly relate to our thesis statement. Another one, affordable college. So, making college more affordable for lower and middle class Americans would benefit all of society, not just those attending college. So a weak example is in an article for the New York Times. Adam Davidson reports tuition at a private university is now roughly 3 times as expensive as it was in 1974, costing an average of $31,000 a year. Public tuition at $9,000 has been risen by nearly 4 times. This is a painful bill for all but the very richest. Stronger. In an article for the New York Times, Adam Davidson argues, in the language of economics, education funding is an investment. It more than pays back its initial costs over time. The other expenses are known as transfer payments, which means that they make society poorer. In an economy that demands and rewards education, those who have it will pay the bills for those who don't. So, for this one, our weaker piece of evidence, again, loosely tied to our thesis, but doesn't directly connect with it because it doesn't directly talk about what would benefit society. It just talks about the cost and how much it has risen. Where our second one, the stronger one, talks directly about how that would benefit society as a whole. So today, when you're finding your evidence, you need to double check before you record it on your outline. Does your evidence really support your position? Does it directly support your thesis that you've created? It should support you, but it shouldn't overpower you. So make sure that it's not too long. Do you use different types of evidence to prove your claims? So do you have some facts, some statistics, some anecdotal evidence? Do you have some expert opinions? Is your evidence the best available evidence, or should you do a little bit more searching? And the last thing, are you using your evidence with a purpose, or are you just throwing it in there because I'm making you? Make sure that the evidence that you're finding actually helps you and makes your paper stronger than what it would be without it. So now that you have gone through the evidence slideshow, now we need to look at how to cite your evidence. So take a look at this sheet here. What I want you guys to do is pause this video and go ahead and look through this sheet so that you know how to cite sources. After you're done with that, then you need to go online and you need to look for 2 pieces of evidence that are going to support your thesis statement. They can be from the same article, they can be from different articles. If you're doing the newspaper one, they can be directly from that article that you've already read and annotated. If you changed your topic to the school one or to the best class, you are going to have to go out and do a little bit of research, find 2 pieces of evidence that support what you're saying directly, and you can go and put them on your outline. Make sure that you cite them. See the guide that I have on here, this one, Citing Evidence sheet. See that for details on how to cite your evidence correctly. If you have questions, please let me know. Have a great day, and I will see you all later.